we'll continue talking about how to create the materials inside Unreal Engine. As you know from our previous video, we have learned how to create the steel and the glass material. So in this video, we will learn how to create our texture material to apply it on the different objects like the landscape objects and the building objects. And as you know, the key to your architectural realism is how you can create your materials to react realistically to the light setup that you have used in terms of the diffuse channel or the normal channels, that is the bump channel if we are talking about the 3D Max, for example, and also for the roughness and the reflection. All of these values, if you can manage to set up them right, you can actually get a realistic look of your material. So let's get started. I'm gonna set up a material for this drive-through object using a texture and applying a displacement channel to give us a realistic look of the bevel that represent the drive-through way. So I have this material that is these textures, sorry, that I have got it from Polygon textures. These guys actually create high resolution textures in terms of 6K or 8K resolution. So their materials actually, or their textures, are composed of the different channels that we're gonna use in our example. So I'm gonna throw the diffuse channel on the object, and instantly you will see that a material have been created. That I'm gonna double click it, and as you can see, I have the diffuse channel and the normal channel created automatically for me. So looking at the object, it seems like I need to adjust the tiling of the repetition of the map, and also I need to rotate it on this direction. To do that, I'm gonna add a texture coordinate parameter and connect this node to the UVs of the texture sampler node, and maybe hit 2 and 2 for the U and V. And here I have the texture. I think this is big enough for our object. But instead of applying and saving and opening again, we need to create an instance material for this node. So I'm gonna create an append node, that is a bend vector, and create a scalar parameter by pressing S, and name this, for example, U, and another one, name it as V for vertical. Connect these to the append, and append is actually represent the combination of these two values to represent the texture coordinates. And hit multiply and connect the texture coordinates and the append, and connect the multiply to the texture sampler and to the normal channel. So I'm gonna hit now apply, and I'm gonna create a material instance and apply it on the object, double click it and enable the U and V. So as you can see, we have the numbers that we have chosen earlier. We have a material instance with a scalar parameter for the textures. Now we need to set up the rotation for this map. So I'm gonna just write down rotate, and from the texture category, I'm gonna choose custom rotate. Put these guys a little bit farther in here, these guys over here. Connect the UVs here, rotation value, this, and for the texture normal, and put a scalar parameter and name it as rotate, and connect it here, apply, and we'll go to the material instance that we have created. Let's see if this is gonna work. Yeah, seems like it's rotating our map now. I'm just gonna put it like 1.75. Yeah, this is enough for now, and moving on. Okay, so after we have set up the normal and the diffuse channel, we need to set up the displacement so we can see these stones coming up off the ground. To do that, we have to enable the tessellation multiplier. So I'm gonna select my material and then go down to the tessellation setup and choose a flat tessellation. This actually fit a very fast performance. The other one maybe will give us will consume a lot of the GPU, and disable this option for us. And let's give a maximum displacement value of, for example, like 250. Alright, so for our textures that we have here, we have a height map that represent the displacement texture. This is basically, as you can see, the white represent the stones or the part of the material that will be extruded or moved to the for example, the z-axis. So I'm gonna create a multiplier and connect the RGB to the multiplier, and S to create a scalar parameter. Call this tessellation strength, as it's the power of the tessellation. Tessellation basically represents the displacement or the movements of the vertex of the objects to the axis that will represent the displacement. Next, we're gonna create also a multiplier, and this time we're gonna create a node called vertex normal as a coordinate. This is the one that will represent the movement of the vertex to the normal direction. And also create another multiplier and a scalar parameter called object radius. Actually, sorry, it's a node, actually, not a scalar parameter. Object radius. So I'm going to connect this here, and then connect all of these to the world displacement. The next thing, we're going to create also a scalar parameter and name this as tessellation. Tessellation amount that will represent the multiplier for the tessellation. So this, let's say this one will be like 1, and the other one, for example, the strength for 0.5. Now it is very important not to forget, as you can see now the texture started to give us some kind of a displacement. It is very important not to forget to connect the tiling that we have created, the texture area, to our texture sampler that represent the height map. So we're gonna hit apply and move to our instance material and enable the tessellation amount. So it's a little bit high right now for the strength, so I'm gonna put this 0.001 and let's move, sorry about that, so let's move the strength, the amount to a value, for example, of 17 or maybe 18. So as you can see, we're starting to see some displacement are going on this. If you keep decreasing the strength, you'll get less extrusion of the object with the texture with the height map. So I believe now the next step that we're gonna add is some roughness texture. I believe we have here a roughness or reflection. There's a roughness. So I'm gonna create also a scalar parameter, call this roughness amount, and a multiplier so we can control it in the material instance. connect these together, put this roughness, hit apply. Let's go to our material instance, enable the roughness amount. So you can see 0 represent no roughness at all, and we have a perfect reflection of the tile stones, but we need actually something like 0.05 or maybe 2 or 1.5, just something that will give us a little bit of glossiness on top of this material. Yeah, so for now this is enough for the displacement material to create a 3D representation of the stone. Moving on, we're gonna create, for example, a concrete texture for this tiling object. So I have a concrete material here, also the same thing. I'm gonna throw the diffuse channel. Honestly, there's a material have been created, and this one we're gonna throw also. Let's say this is, we don't want to actually create a displacement for this because we didn't actually increase the subdivisions for this object. If you remember, in our, I think in our second video, we have explained why you need more segments or polygons for your objects to get a better representation of your displacement. So for this material, we're gonna need basically the normal and also a glossiness. Yeah, why not? That's it. So I'm gonna connect these to the normal. It's just the basic material, nothing into it. Let's say for the roughness. And we need to create the same thing that we have created for the texture tiling. But the good thing about Unreal Engine, you don't need to create things from scratch. Basically, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open my material that I've created, and then I'm gonna go select all of these, Control C and Control V here, and connect the texture rotator. One of the things that we actually also forgot to add here in our texture is to add a flatten mapper that will give us a control over the texture. So you need actually to increase also the normal strength here. So I'm gonna add also here a multiplier, connect the result here, add a scale parameter and call it normal power, connect it here. Sorry, we don't need actually a multiplier. I'm gonna connect this directly to the normal, and before we hit apply, I'm gonna take this also, put it here. I'm gonna connect the amount and put it also in the normal. Let's hit apply here first and see how we can adjust our normal on our texture here. So I'm gonna open, I'm gonna make sure, sorry, that I have put the material instance on top of this. And it seems like I forgot also to connect the texture rotator for the texture sample of the roughness. And if we go now to our instance material, if we look here to our texture instance, we're gonna activate the normal power. Let's increase it a little bit. Yeah, so this have given us a better representation of the roughness of this tile texture. So if you look at this angle, we'll see your stones are more clear now than before. Let's go back to our concrete. I'm gonna close now this one. To our concrete texture. So I'm gonna also add here a multiplier, the scalar parameter, and call this roughness power connected to the multiplier, so I can get control over this and hit apply. I'm back to the concrete and right click, create a material instance, apply it on top of our object, activate all of our parameters that we have created. Let's start by the UV, sorry, 1. Seems like really flat and smooth without any normal power, so I'm gonna add, let's say something like 15, maybe too much, 10, or maybe less, 5. Now a little bit of a roughness into it, so we don't see that perfect reflection. Maybe increase it also a little bit. Yeah, I think this is much better. We don't need actually to rotate it for this because there is no specific direction for the concrete material. Alright, so let's create another material. Let's say for example for this tile walkway. So I'm gonna go again to the landscape. I have this tile texture. Also throw the diffuse channel on top of the object. A material have been created. Let's go for the concrete material. Click on the search icons, and then I'm gonna take copy for all the texture tiling nodes, and also for the flatten of the normal, and for the roughness also. Control C, and then go back to our tiling material, open it, and then Control V. So I'm just gonna drop my material texture that represent the normal, and also let's get the glossiness. So here's the normal and the glossiness. So we're gonna connect the custom rotator to the UV and to the glossiness. Connect this roughness, normal to the normal, and also connect texture tiling for the normal. So let's hit apply and create a material instance. Double click it, activate all the scalar parameters, start by the UV. This is happening actually because I click on tab to move to the next panel. So maybe increase it a little bit. This depends on your UV that you have applied. Sorry, I'm just gonna drag this and put it here. So I forgot to apply the material instance on the object. Again, pressing tab. Okay. Yeah, so I think 1 and 1 for the U and V is okay. Let's increase the normal and look at the effect somewhere here with the light effect. Yeah, so the more we're gonna increase for the normal, the more details of the texture we're gonna get. Let's say 3 is okay, and for the roughness power, if we decrease the normal, we're gonna get more reflection. More roughness means less reflection. So let's go in between normal 2, so we get a little bit of a reflection also. Alright, so I'm gonna move now to create some materials for the building. And for this, I have a texture here that represent a plaster texture. So we're gonna apply it also on the building. Let's say apply it here. Drag the diffuse channel. The material was created. Also Control V. and let's arrange our workspace here. So I'm gonna drag the normal and roughness or the reflection map, connect the normal, flatten. Same way I have done also with the other textures. And this is the way you speed up your work process when you're creating your textures based on the material you have imported, or sorry, based on the texture you have imported. Okay, let's hit apply, create a material instance, apply it in the building, activate of this, say 1 by 1, it's okay, normal 2, and roughness, let's make it for example 0.6. So as you can see, we have created our building texture. We have a second extrusion of the building. But for example, let's say our client wants to have the same texture that we have here, but with a different color. Let's say a gray darker color. So to do that, I'm gonna duplicate this material by pressing Ctrl W, double click it, and all I need to do is press M from multiply, and then press 3 vector channel to represent the color, and connect this to the multiply with the texture. Let's convert to this to also parameter, wall color, hit apply, and then create also a material instance from this and apply it on the wall. Let's minimize it, the parameters, so 1, and the roughness power, let's say 0.5, increase it to 15. Let's change the color by dragging the color selection and then apply it on top of this object. Yeah, so now we have created from the same texture, the same UV textures, a different color material by just adding a multiplier node, this a 3 vector color node, and converting it to a parameter so we can adjust it on the instance material. So what you have seen so far is the basic way to create a texture material inside Unreal Engine, how we applied a displacement using tessellation nodes, and how we created materials with the effect of the normal and roughness. But we can also use the other sources of ready textures that we have talked about earlier in the previous video, and this can be imported using, for example, the Substance plugin that you can install on your Epic Game Launcher. Going down to the vault, just write Substance, then install it to your engine, and once you restart your engine, you'll find the S logo representing the Substance. And as you can see, Substance includes lots of material library, and if you log in with your account, you'll find a free package of their material that you can download and use. And you can also, if we create a folder here, call it Substance, and let's, for example, download this texture. All you're gonna do is just download, and you will get the material downloaded on your project file, and you can easily apply it on your object, and then double click it. And as you can see, still need a little bit of adjusting the tiling and maybe adding the flatten normal and some of the node parameter that we have added in. And this is why I actually went through creating the material for you from scratch, so you can be ready to adjust, for example, the tiling and the direction, and also increase the normal effect of the substance texture. So I believe this is nothing like, it's not really difficult now that you know how to adjust or create the material from scratch. The other way of getting ready-use material is also by installing the Magascan plugin that was developed by Quixel team. And this is basically one of the biggest library of 3D and 2D assets that lately Epic Games have acquired and provided for free on their marketplace. We will talk more about how to use this in our projects and our foliage tutorial. So what you need to do is to install the Quixel bridge to get access to lots of their free 3D and 2D assets, and at the same time through the bridge you will install the plugin. For the detailed installation of Quixel bridge and the plugin, I will put a link in the description below that was professionally detailed and explained by Quixel team. And after you install the bridge and the plugin, you can easily go to the free assets and to one of the surfaces, for example, and to, let's say for example, for this material, once you export it, you can easily go, for example, inside your Unreal Engine project, and you'll find it available in your folders here. Let's say for example the one I have exported. Just drag it on your object, and it seems like you need to adjust the tiling, as the object has a different tiling parameters. So in the material instance we have their UVs for the texture. So I'm gonna just bring it down, say increase this a little bit. I want to, so yeah, so maybe this, and for the V, yeah, and now we can apply this material to the different part of our projects that will fit this description. If you find a different UV tiling, you can easily go back to 3D Max and adjust the UVs on all of the objects that you want to apply the material on top of it. And again, as we have mentioned before, you can go back to your imported datasmith file, for example for the building, and after you have exported the model again, just right click and re-import, and you will get the model updated with the UVs. So when you apply it, you will get your UVs presented accurately for all of the objects. So far we have learned how to create the material and use Substance Designer and Magascan to apply the material in our project file. In our next video, we'll be talking on how to create the water material for the pool, and also how to create the caustic for the water during the daylight. So I hope you have learned how to create the material through this part also using the textures, and see you in the next video. Thank you very much.